Hello everyone and welcome to the Council of Elrond, where we discuss all things Lord of the Rings. I'm your host Johnny and I'm joined by your other host Dave, but today we have some very special guests with us who are going to help us break down the 6th episode of The Rings of Power. We would like to give a warm welcome to Jake and James from the Broken Sword YouTube channel. These lads run many YouTube channels on all sorts of geeky topics, including Batman, Power Rangers, Dragon Ball Z, and tabletop games and more. But the ones that we're the biggest fan of is The Broken Sword, which deals with all things Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. They are hugely successful and popular, and Dave and I had the absolute pleasure of meeting them at the London premiere event. Guys, welcome to the council. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell the listeners anything else about you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that very nice introduction. I feel very special right now. So I'm Jake.
I'm James.
And I mean, you've pretty much covered everything. There's not a lot more we can say. We're YouTubers. We cover a lot of nerdy stuff.
Fellow Shields.
Specifically Tolkien. Yep.
Very good.
Can't forget that.
Go check them out. Guys. We'll also drop all of their links and places that you can find them in the podcast description section and in the section down below for YouTube. And but today we will be discussing the 6th episode of The Rings of Power entitled Udun, which you may remember from the Fellowship of the Ring when Gandalf says "Flame of Udun." But before
that was like having Ian McKellen in my ear.
There you go. It's been many years of practice. But before we begin, I'd love to encourage you guys to check us out on YouTube. And if you'd like to help us keep putting out these weekly podcasts, please check out our Patreon where you can become a member. And we're actually reviewing all the episodes of House of the Dragon over there each week too. So the links to all of our socials will be in the podcast info section as well.
You have been told many lies of Middle-earth.
So, welcome again, guys. And now, before we break down the Rings of Power, I'd like to introduce our listeners to you, get them to know you a little bit more and about your Lord of the Rings background and your love of Tolkien. So I've prepared a couple of rapid-fire questions about the original trilogy, just to get your opinions.
Oh boy.
So hopefully that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, no problem. Let's go.
Right. So just first of all, Dave, I'm not going to ask you because nobody cares. So I want to get a couple of your favorites and what you guys, what stands out for you in the original movie. So first of all, what was your favorite location in the original trilogy? I'll come to you first, James.
Oh, it's the Shire, hands down. Every time I see the Shire, it's like going home. Absolutely love it.
Is that because you're short?
It helps. The thing is, though, if I went there, I would actually be a giant among hobbits. And that is just a dream.
You'd be the
a
king.
dream that I'll never succeed in.
That guy's half a foot taller than the rest of
roll.
us.
Yeah,
I would take it.
that's a great answer, and also I think I could be more specific even and say the Green Dragon inside the Shire would be the perfect location for you to spend a lot of time. How about you, Jake?
It's a tough question. Weirdly, I like stuff in Gondor, so I like seeing Minas Tirith. I mean, it's an epic design. The design for the film is just like magnificent, right? It's incredible.
Of course.
And even the way behind the scenes, the way they built it, these bigatures, it's just super impressive to me.
Love it.
And I love it. So I'm going to go with Minas Tirith.
Good answer. Very, very good. Cool. Next quick one would be, what's your favorite score or theme from the trilogy? Not easy.
Maybe the Fellowship theme.
Mm-hmm.
The epicness as the Fellowship. You know, when they first leave Rivendell, there's the shot of them walking out over the mountain, and it kicks in. Iconic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is that called The Ring Goes South? I think.
Is it?
I think so.
Maybe.
I think
I'm not sure. Either that or is it just Rohirrim? Ride of the Rohirrim?
Yeah, the Ride of the Rohirrim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
It's the one that kicks in after and Rohan will answer.
Yes.
Oh,
that one.
Yeah.
Epic one. Epic.
Yeah.
Very good.
I would
James?
have to I was either going to agree with that or also say, again, the Shire theme.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's the one that kicks it all off for me going into Middle-earth. So it's so iconic and it puts me in the world.
Yeah. No.
There's not a bad score.
No,
that's why
the whole score is fantastic.
It was an easy question. You couldn't get it wrong, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
Next one I have is, what is your favorite kill from the 3 movies?
Oh, now that's a tough question.
Now,
That's something I've never even
one
thought
that
about.
the first one that like springs to mind that you're just like that was an epic kill.
Weirdly, the first one that sprung to my mind was Fellowship of the Ring at Amon Hen when Legolas stabs the one with an arrow, pulls it out, and then shoots it.
Yeah.
That's a cool
Very
one.
cool.
I can't tell you why that came to my head first, but it did, so I'm going to go for that.
Nice.
I mean, the first one that comes to my head is probably Aragorn beheading Lurtz
Right.
Yeah.
at the end of the Fellowship.
That's a great kill.
Just because I still have great memories of that being my introduction to Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And for some reason, even though Lurtz is obviously a created character for the movie, that just sticks in my head. And I remember seeing that fight scene for the first time and just being like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love how
stuff's good.
The way it all plays out, where he cuts off the arm, stabs him, draws him into his belly, and then cuts the head
Yeah.
off. I love it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great scene.
I love the
So good.
swiftness of just killing this massive foe that had been built up, and then just like, right, let's move on. Next, what's like, Aragorn, he just runs away, and immediately he's like back into fighting mode. He's not like going to hang around and look at the dead body and think like, wow, I'm great, look what I just did. He's just like, okay, get on with it. So so
I find that similar with how he kills Gothmog in Return of the King.
Yeah.
Although it's extended cut only, isn't
scene,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just they kind of just run along. He's just chop off another one like
Yeah.
they do with the rest of them and
Yeah.
carry on.
Just
not,
another
not
day in
worrying
the
that he's
life
just
of-
led the entire army.
That's like a tag team
Another
of
day in the
him
life
and
of
Gimli
Aragorn.
as well, isn't it?
That's
Where they're
right,
both,
yeah,
like taking swipes at him. Yeah, that's a good one.
Eowyn's crawling away, and it's like this
Yeah.
horrible thing is coming after her, and then it's just like, oh, some background kill. It's like, oh, whatever, no big deal. So
If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, you need to do yourselves a favor and watch the extended edition.
Oh yeah.
if
Don't
we have
worry,
any listeners who
they're not
haven't
allowed
yet
to listen
seen
to
these-
us.
Yeah, excommunicated. So the next one of your favorites would be, what was your favorite camera shot?
And name the
Ooh,
camera.
a CG camera, and it's got to be the reveal of the Rohirrim at Pelennor.
Yeah, beautiful.
Just that moment when it pulls out and you see the size of
Wow.
the Rohirrim there on the field with the sun behind it. That's got to be it for me.
Mine would be, I'm trying to think, I think it's done twice, where the camera kind of from Orthanc goes down and into the,
Yes.
Oh,
where you
yes,
see all the
yeah.
Uruks being like
That's so cool.
bred, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I know it's CG, but it's impressive. Well, I think they did some miniature stuff with it as well.
I
Yeah, I
remember
think
right.
I also have to have an honourable mention for in Amon Hen in the Fellowship, the spider cam going through the woods, going down.
Yeah.
So where you like
Yeah.
following Aragorn and all going down to chase to get to Boromir, and it's just all real. There's nothing fake about any of
Yeah.
it, and I just love how they did that.
I've just noticed that a lot of our answers to these questions are purely Fellowship.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Best movie, isn't it? You know, I mean,
Yes.
There's a lot
I mean,
more
yeah.
CG as the movies go on. I think The Two Towers has a lot more, and then obviously The Return of the King there's loads of CG.
Bigger scale though.
Bigger scale.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
You can't really have 500,000 extras.
now, so great answers to both. I was actually looking forward to hearing your answers on both of those because I know that you guys are filmmakers. So I was interested to hear which from behind the camera, that kind of insight. So very good. The last thing I'm going to ask is now related to the Rings of Power series, and I wanted to ask you, which is your favorite character or the actor's performance or portrayal of that character so far?
For me, I'd have to go with Durin. Durin or Adar. When either one of those are on screen, I kind of a bit more, I pay a bit more attention.
Right.
Yeah. Because the performances are good, the characters are good, they look good, they sound good. I don't have bad things to say about them really. Whereas other characters, I have some negatives, to say the least. So
Okay.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I feel like I would agree with Adar because he looks the part, sounds the part, and the performance just nails it.
it's just got a bit mesmerizing.
Yeah, if you've got a good villain, you can have a good story. Without a good villain, you can't really have a good story, and he just nails that role.
Well, we get to see an awful lot of him in this episode, so I'm excited to get talking about it because, I definitely would agree with you. The more we see of Adar, the more intrigued I am in this story. Especially the Southlands, it's been kind of a boring plot from the first 2 or 3 episodes, but once Adar got in, I really felt like it's kicking up a notch. So,
Yeah,
I agree.
stuff.
Yeah. One thing I will say about Adar, especially in this episode, is that I just have to turn the subtitles on every time he's on the screen because I can't understand anything he's saying. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
in fact, we watched the episode this morning, and he had like a good 20-second bit of dialogue, and I turned to James and I said, "Was he speaking English then?"
Yeah. It was just odd words. I was like, it's definitely English.
Yeah, I just didn't understand 90% of it.
Yeah.
I had the subtitles on the whole time, and I never really took notice because I couldn't really understand it. But sometimes it would say in Quenya, and then other times in English, and I'm like, really, really, Amazon? I think it's all in Quenya.
But apart from just my lack of understanding of what he's saying, which also makes me think it's cool.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think,
Ian
I agree.
McKellen,
Like,
he couldn't understand anything he said.
Yeah, he's king of mumbles, isn't he? Yeah. Love that. Right.
You guys clearly practice your Gandalf impressions.
Oh, yeah. That's 90% of what we do, really. So we're going to get into the episode now. And again, maybe just before we actually go and break down the things, I want to just have a little section here where we look at callbacks to the Lord of the Rings, because I think this episode had more callbacks to than any of the other episodes so far. So I'm just going to like list a few of them, and I don't want to go into massive detail on them all, but I want to get maybe a couple of your guys' feedbacks from them as well. So I've written them down, not really in any particular order. I don't know if this is going through it or not. But anyway, at the beginning, Bronwyn says, "In the end, this shadow is but a small and passing thing." I thought that was kind of reminiscent of Sam Gamgee's quote. Then Arondir shooting a rope with his arrow, very Legolas of him. I thought.
Oh yeah, Helm's Deep.
Yeah. Adar moving out of the falling rock at the last minute from the tumbling towers, very Gothmog from Return of the King, I thought. Where the other guy was like, "You must move," and he's just staring at the rock, and then eventually he's like, "Okay, I'll move." What else do we have here? We had Arondir saying, "Rid yourself of it." And then as he said that, I said, "Once and for all." And then he said, "Once and for all." And I was like, oh my God, that's just exactly
Brilliant.
Did any of you guys pick up on that one?
I didn't pick up on that one at all.
All right, yeah. I literally said it out loud as I was watching it. He said, "Rid yourself." And I was like, "Once and for all." And I was like, oh, he actually didn't say it. So then there was a couple of things with speaking Elvish, like Elendil calms down the horse by speaking Elvish to it. Also, Galadriel whispers to the horse to run faster, like Arwen does in The Fellowship.
Yeah.
Something else that maybe isn't massively, maybe it's just my mind jumping out at it, which was the very beginning when we see the sleeping quarters on the boat. It just felt reminiscent to me of the Return of the King, where Pippin grabs the Palantir, that scene where he wakes up and they're all sleeping on the floor and all that kind of stuff.
There's one guy awake amongst all the sleepy.
Yeah, that was the one thing. Yeah.
You're reaching, but I get it.
I'm reaching maybe a little bit that way. And then the final one that I wrote down was a weapon or an item that cannot be destroyed by the skills that they have alone. So that was another thing as well, where it's just Arondir whacking the sword with a hammer, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like Gimli trying to destroy the ring with his axe. But those are my things that jumped out at me. Did you guys have any extra ones, any more, or do you have any opinions on those ones that you think were... Sometimes a callback can be a little bit too much on the nose, but I think some of them were quite nicely done.
Yeah, I think one of the big ones was the way the water was flowing was very Breaking the Dam in Two Towers.
Release the river.
Oh,
yeah, it felt very like that to me. And the way when it went down into the lava, that just felt like going down into the pits of Isengard.
Yeah. Oh,
that
excellent.
Reminded me of that straight away.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
The whole episode felt, I mean, and we actually said this during our watch, is it felt very Two Towers for the most part.
Oh, yeah, that was another one with Bronwyn telling Theo to go inside and guard the ones because that's your vault. You have to protect them. It's like, well, that's just Eowyn's job.
Yeah,
the one who wants to fight, but shouldn't really be there.
Where he's just like, oh, I can fight, and he's like, Bronwyn's like, no, go in and protect the others. Like, that is why you must be there. Just felt like Aragorn talking to Eowyn in the Two Towers.
So yeah, exactly. There was loads of things like that just like reminded me of the original movies. And again, like, I don't know why Theo was sent in to guard the people, because I mean, he's a young man who should be one of the strongest people. I mean, he's probably, how old is he? Like supposed to be 16 or something like that, which is probably fighting age for those times. So that felt a bit weird.
But also, what happened to his wound? He had a wound and he was on a crutch, and then suddenly he's fine.
Was he on a crutch?
So I thought that would be why
he
he wouldn't fight, because he was injured, but he seemed to be fine in this episode.
Yeah, he came out later on and he took out a couple of orcs quite well. And I was like, that guy should have been out here fighting the whole time. So
it's the compressed timeline. That was years ago. That
Anyway, right. So just wanted to get that out of the way before.
Oh wait, I have one more. More.
Right.
Well, just when Isildur was feeding what's the horse name?
Beric.
Beric. Yeah, it's I don't know, it just really reminded me of Aragorn and Brago's relationship. And was there a point as well where Aragorn throws an apple in the three movies?
Well, he throws it to Pippin.
Yeah, okay. Was there another point where he just fecks it out into the water? Or is that just my... No, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so. No, I don't think that happened. But,
also,
did anybody else notice? I think I saw an error when they shot that scene of the horse eating the apple. It made this like crunching noise like a human would eating an apple, and it looked like the horse didn't actually bite the apple at all. It's like
I thought he
Isildur turned it in his hand. It seemed a bit like, I don't know, it didn't seem right to me the way that was shot, so I thought that was a bit of an error. But maybe.
Have you ever seen is it Mission Impossible 2 where there's a fight scene and at the end the guy is trying to stab Tom Cruise in the face with a knife, and I think they shot it in the eye, really reminiscent of that scene with Arondir and the big bully orc. But the way they actually shot that in real life as well with Tom Cruise is he is pushing this eye, and it is only like a couple of, maybe like an inch from his eyeball. It's disgusting, the behind the scenes of it, but he's pushing away while the other guy is pushing down. Or maybe it's the opposite way around. But it was all real, all in camera.
Oh, really?
So,
that was...
Wow, that's dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. But you're Tom Cruise, like he's mental.
Yeah, Tom Cruise, what do you expect?
True.
Anyways,
right.
Stab me in the eye, do it. It'll look great on camera.
Did you ever see his story, actually, where he's talking about scaling the building in Mission Impossible 4? And I think it's actually Matt Damon that's telling the story. And Tom Cruise is saying to Matt, like, oh yeah, so I tried to get my safety guy to like tell me about how to do it. And the safety guy was like, you cannot do this. Like, this is insane. You will die. So Tom Cruise goes, so I got myself a new safety guy.
What a hero. What a legend.
Right. So we should probably start up a Tom Cruise podcast as well. Of our love of Tom Cruise. But anyway, let's move on to this episode. So this episode, we're going to try and go through it fairly quick, but I'm going to sort of go through it chronologically. And it opens up with the character of Adar, who we see, and he's there planting some seeds. And he says this thing of like, this, what does he say? New life in defiance of death, which I didn't know what the hell he was on about initially, but then it gets explained to us later on. And I think I liked the explanation later, but it didn't really make sense how Bronwyn just knew like the exact quote kind of thing. So that was a bit weird. But
but also the quote didn't make sense to what Adar was doing, because the whole quote was, you bury one before the battle, and you bury the rest, basically, when you survive. And Adar's just there with like a load of them, just burying them.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you haven't won yet.
And also,
Just
he's burying it in Mordor or in the Southlands, which is going to be completely destroyed anyways. So it doesn't make any sense.
Which is part of his plan.
it's just a habit. It's just a habit of planting some seeds
maybe.
before, maybe. Yeah, old habits die hard and all that.
Maybe he's just burying them to hide.
I took from that they're trying to kind of show us, I think, that there's still a little bit of elf left in him.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
He is a very cool. I like what they're doing with him as well. I think that's one of their well thought out characters. Also, as well, we should mention that this episode focused only on 2 plot lines, and then they eventually converge into one. So it was nice to not be kind of just jumping all over the place, and to actually see one story play out in quite a lot of details. So that was pretty cool.
I agree.
Yeah,
and it was nice not having any half-ups, because I've gone off them.
Yeah,
they've gone bad. They do always just slow it down a little bit. So I mean, I am intrigued to find out who the stranger is, but when he wasn't in this episode, I was like, yep, pretty happy about that. So that was good. Yeah. And again, I was a little bit disappointed not to see anything else with the dwarves in that storyline, and because I don't believe anything that happened in the last episode, like with the root of the tree of the blah 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 blah, whatever it's called.
The song of the roots of the Hithaioglir.
Well done, Dave. You've learned it off.
I remember.
But I think we could just like discard all of that information, because it's not. I don't believe it's going to be true, and I'm just it's annoying that we have to wait another week or so to find out whether where that's going. But again, as I said, it was nice to just stay on track with this one storyline here. So we get to see a cool speech from Adar to the orcs, and he keeps referring to them as uruks instead of orcs, which I liked. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And we know that uruks is the black speech for orc, and urukai, which a lot of people think is uruk, is just like the higher level of orc, I suppose. So we get a cool insight also into the orcs' motivation, which I don't think we've ever really seen before, where they're not just evil and they're blindly following their commander. They're also looking for a home, and they almost seem human in this episode, where Adar later speaks about them and says, that they have a heart and that they've been created by effectively he says Eru, because that's who he's talking about.
Yeah.
With the flame unperishable, or I think he says that. But what did you guys think of that? Do you like the? I mean, I know that I think you guys are fans of the orcs in general, but what did you think about that? I'll come to you, Jake.
I'm definitely a fan of the orcs. Definitely how they look, how they sound. I'm enjoying the storyline that's involved in them. The issue I've got with that is it makes it sound like orcs are almost redeemable.
Mm.
And James and I have talked about this in the past, that not everything and everyone needs to be redeemable. Orcs are evil. That's just what they're made to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're fully corrupted, right? They don't need to be redeemable. It's like the line in episode 2, 3, where Celebrimbor and Elrond are talking about Morgoth and the Silmarils,
yes.
and they talk about how it almost changed even his heart or something along those lines.
Sure.
Like Morgoth is evil.
Mm.
He's not just a bad guy. He is evil. He's not redeemable.
Personified.
And making him sound like he could be is ridiculous. And that's how I feel about the orcs as well.
Sure.
Telling us that they have hearts is a bit...
Well, again, I think what happened in that scene was we get two totally different perspectives, because this is like Adar's perspective, and so when that happened, I immediately was thinking, wow, this is quite controversial. They're going to go into this and maybe develop this idea more, that Tolkien even didn't really give a definite answer on whether or not orcs are redeemable, whether or not they have souls, what happens to them after they die. So I was wondering if they were going to go into that, but then Galadriel comes back and she's immediately like says, no, they are completely evil and they have to all be eradicated like a pest. So I suppose.
Who was the evil elf in that scene? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
My
but
God.
that's a great point right there.
yeah. That was an interesting scene for sure. But again, I think immediately as I thought, they're going to go one way with this idea, then they went the opposite way, and Galadriel was saying, I just don't believe that at all. That's completely bollocks. Like so. Interesting. But we'll move on to the next part, which was the tower attack, and we finally get to see most of the scenes that we saw in the trailers. And I think that's the last of those kind of shots or spoilers, as I think of them. So after episode 6 of an 8-part series, which is kind of a little bit too late to be showing us stuff that still came out in the trailers, in my opinion. But it was a kind of cool scene. Adar says he can smell the elf, which so we get to see that elves have a very keen sense of smell and not just keen sense of sight, which we get with Galadriel later on. But Arondir is kicking ass in this scene. As I mentioned earlier, he cuts a rope with his arrow shot. And I think they could have made that a little bit easier on themselves. I was expecting, remember in the trailers, we saw that scene of him doing this like kind of spitting kick, and he kicks off this stone, which eventually we saw was to close the door. I thought that was going to be the action that would start the collapse of the tower or something like that. But eventually he was just like, no, I'm just going to shoot a flaming arrow. And well, then again, maybe for him, that's an easy thing to do. Maybe it's an easy shot, and maybe he trusts his aim. So.
I have no issues with the shot. My issues...
How does it bring down the tower?
Yeah, was that tower held together by a rope? Like that. As soon as that started crumbling from a rope cut, I was a bit like,
Yeah, it was a bit strange. All right. As I said, when we saw in the trailers, he kicked this stone and something fell. I thought that was going to be like some chain reaction starting something that they had done, but like we're going to kick out the cornerstone and cause the collapse. So it's a little bit unusual, a little bit strange. What do you think about that, James?
I mean, it was just, it felt very Legolas to me.
It did feel
that whole section, and even the bit like when he gets the door shut, traps them in. And then they cut to a wide shot, and you realise the pathway, although in the shot before it looked empty, there was actually still a lot of orcs on the path all the way down. And somehow he's got to get down back to the village without
past all those
going. Or he's got to go and kill like 200 orcs, maybe.
The geography of that scene didn't make a lot of sense the way they showed it.
No, and even the bit with the villagers even getting out and down to the village at the bottom in the first place just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, did they like pass each other?
Yeah. Did they sneak past? It was
like, it was kind of a point that they were supposed to be cornered and backed in, and that was their thing. They were backs against the wall. They couldn't run. So
they should have showed that there was a secret passage or something, because that's what I assumed was the reason how they got out, but they don't show it. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, that's it. It was never set up, so it just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Now, just to me, it seemed like the orcs were just taking the main principal road, I suppose, and then they obviously just went off road and maybe cut through fields or something. But I don't know. I mean, now that you say that and you bring it up, yeah, that's quite a good point. But I hadn't really considered it initially. Also, I wasn't sure, were they standing in the village watching the destruction, or were they just standing at another safe place? Were they actually in the village at that time?
I think it was the village, because they basically turn around and go straight into it, don't they? Because they're right by the buildings. So I think it's the same position that we see Adar looking up at the watchtower from in the episode before.
Right.
So I feel like they set it up in that way.
Okay.
But yeah, like when you look around, it's just all big steep mountains. So unless they were going to show them climbing down, which could have been interesting, but yeah, they should just teleported.
It won't take a lot of screen time to just show someone lifting up a trapdoor and being like, "Oh, here's a secret passageway" or something, you know. And it would have been, you know, complete plot device, but you just have to roll with it. But the fact that they don't show how they got to where they were is a little bit different.
Have Elrond there saying like, "Is there no other way?
Yeah.
Is there no other way for women to get out of the That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be nice. You should just redo Lord of the Rings again. Actually,
I'd be happier, I think.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Also, it was a little bit disappointing that in the whole episode we didn't get to see Adar whipping out that massive sword that we've seen so much in the program.
I know, I said that because it's so huge. I feel like it would be a comical moment.
Yeah.
Like, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
There it is.
Final Fantasy style. That's what it would be like.
Yeah, but it looks so awesome. I mean, maybe the blade's only tiny. It's just a giant handle on it. You know? That'd also be quite comical as well. Just it has this tiny,
trying to make up for something.
2-inch dagger on the end of it.
There was something cool about this scene when the orcs first enter into the Ostirith or whatever that place is called, and they're looking for all the villagers, and they're speaking black speech, and one of them says, and there's no subtitles for some of the parts where they're speaking black speech, and one of them says, Gimpatuluk, which is in the One Ring description, you know, Ajnag Durpatuluk, Ajnag Gimbatuluk, or something like that. And I think that means find them. Do you know, in the darkness, find them? Or in the darkness.
One ring to find them.
One ring to find them, yeah. So one ring to find them, but like that line
very good,
would just mean, I saw it on Twitter. But I did hear that, and I was like,
cut that.
I was like, give that to Luke. I think I picked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds familiar, and I don't think I pieced it together with the One Ring description, or the One Ring poem. But that is really cool. If they didn't even put that in, they didn't even put subtitles in to say find them. It's just a little background nod, and that impressed me.
I mean, I was impressed first of all by your black speech, but again, just a little plug to an earlier episode that we did a few weeks ago, which was on the One Ring episode. We did an episode on the One Ring, and I believe you learned off all the black speech for that, and you read it out in our podcast, which was pretty cool as well. Good job, nice pronunciation, well done.
Thank you.
Very good. So that's interesting. I didn't pick up on that before. So good man. Also, I think the destruction of the tower. Maybe there was a few plot holes in that as well that we've spoken about. But the actual destruction itself, I thought some of it was really well shot. I liked how one of the planks just broke off the tower and impaled some orc.
That was cool.
That was pretty cool. There was also another orc that was kind of like walking around and just stared up, and he got like a load of boulders and rocks just crushed him. So pretty cool. I'm liking some of the brutality and some of the some of that action as well. So that was kind of cool. We jump on, then we move on to the scene where we see the Númenórean ships, and Galadriel is speaking to Isildur, and we find out a little bit more about Isildur, and he explains that he wanted to get away from Númenor, and he doesn't consider that it's the real Númenor, and Galadriel kind of assures him that Númenor did exist, and it still does exist, and she says even in the heart of a stable boy, which was quite nice. I liked that.
Yeah, this dialogue was strong, I felt, and I really felt like this was the first time we're seeing Galadriel as we're used to seeing her. Like, she wasn't being, a little spoiled brat, and she wasn't full of vengeance.
Although I want to cut in there. This is also the same scene, right, where she's like, my eyesight's better than yours.
Yeah, okay, yeah, true. Yeah, I've been seeing this for an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, that's true.
Catch up, will you? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I didn't think it was that condescending.
I hate her character. I hate her.
Oh, really?
I literally can't stand her.
Right.
Awful.
I thought
I'm not beating around the bush there.
Yeah,
that's fair enough. You just get right out and say it as well. But I did like, again, her conversation. Now, not maybe because of what she did, but I liked her conversation a moment later with Elendil. I thought that Elendil's little he said some very pretty dialogue about, watching the sunset, and I always watch the sunset from the east over the sea, and then I watch it. I watch it rise in the east and set over the land. But this time I'm sailing into the sunset, and it feels like I'm sailing into the night. So that was kind of cool as well. And then he kind of mentions how he's like, "Oh, by the way, my wife drowned."
Yeah.
And, which is like a little kind of
I like that scene.
Yeah,
The dialogue, but I mean, everything that so far Elendil's been a part of, I have loved. I think apart from his initial introduction was a little stale, but since then he's been fantastic. So whenever he's another character that when he's on screen,
Yes.
I'm a bit more engrossed. But another thing about that scene which really bugged me is obviously Isildur comes out to get a glimpse of the land, and she says, "Oh, you'll be able to see it within minutes," or whatever she says. But then they kind of carry on a conversation, and in the background you can just see loads of land. That's been in shot for a good few hours to the human eye.
Sure,
sure.
So that did kind of bug me as well.
bit.
But I kind of like I'll let that go.
Again,
Maybe they'd be just standing
timeline.
there chatting for condensed timeline.
Time compression.
I mean, there are lots of little things that can bug you, but I'll put that down as a nitpick. But yeah, I did also pick up on that initially. But that was cool as well, and I agree with you guys completely that. What about you, James? What's been your opinion of Elendil in general? Even in this episode, let's even say later on, if we jump ahead and we say when he has that little conversation with Isildur, and he talks more about Isildur's mother and how she, first of all, we find out that she's drowned. Then we find out that she taught Elendil about the relationship and the bond between horses and their riders, things like that. I just think I'm loving every time Elendil is speaking. He's class.
Oh yeah, I mean he just has the voice, doesn't he? The one that you could just listen to, and he could give any speech, and I'll follow him into battle. So it's like he could be talking absolute nonsense, but I'll be like, yes, come on then, let's take him.
We should get him to be the narrator for the Broken Sword.
If he wants to be the new narrator, I would happily.
What's his name? Lloyd Owen.
Lloyd Owen.
Yeah,
He could do
Lloyd,
that thing where
mate.
he could do the build
Send your
me an
CD.
army worthy of more
yes.
at the start of all your episodes.
Yeah, at the end of last week's episode when he said, we sail northeast to Middle Earth or whatever, I was like, that's so class.
Yeah, he's good.
Can I come?
I was going to say that earlier if anyone wanted to know who my favorite character from the Rings of Power was, but look, it's fine. It probably would have been that voice. And I think you're right there, James, was it that said that he just steals the limelight every time he's on screen. So gotta love him. Yeah,
cool. Well, we'll jump back to the Southlanders then. They're preparing for attack, and Arondir, he's having a chat with Bronwyn, and he mentions one of the Valar who watches over growing things or gardens or something like that. So it's like, it's got to be Yavanna, right? So I think before the show started, we weren't sure how much they were going to like speak about the Valar and different things like that, and we didn't know how much, like how many rights they had to things like that as well. So it is cool to see them being mentioned quite a few times now, I think. So that was quite nice.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it in the breakdown video that we did. That it's interesting as well because Yavanna is the wife to Aule, who's obviously the other Valar who's been mentioned so much in this show.
Aule's beard.
Yeah. So yeah, he's obviously like I wonder if they've only got like a few rights. Like they can't name all of them.
Yeah.
But
well, they
a few,
didn't even mention.
And maybe
Yavanna
they come in pairs.
No.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, no, they didn't mention it by name,
Arondir
did they?
didn't even believe in her fully. He was just like, they say there's a rumor of a Valar who loves all things that grow. I'm like, you should be well into that, man. But,
he's a bad student. He just didn't study. Didn't pay attention in class. Maybe. He was a kid. Yeah. So then we get the night attack from the orcs, and they're arriving, and it's a very Home Alone type thing here where they're setting up these little booby traps.
Are we skipping over them kissing?
Oh God!
Yeah.
I just deleted that out of my brain. I'm going to try and skip very quickly over all Bronwyn scenes because she's my least favorite character so far.
Agreed.
Bronwyn. Yeah,
even her accent bugs me. It's just like,
especially her accent.
Why
did she have something to say about their kissing?
Yeah.
Or...
Go on, let it out.
It's stupid.
It is stupid.
I honestly, watching that scene, I felt like they went, "Ooh, let's have them kiss, and we'll just put it here." And that's just what that scene felt like to me. There was no need for it. even I enjoy references to the Valar and things like that, and obviously talking about looking over people that guard things that grow, or whatever the quote was. It's very elven, and I like things like that. But this scene just felt like they put it there just so they could kiss for no reason. If you take that scene out of the episode, it doesn't really change anything.
Was this the first time that they kissed on screen? Because
I think it's the first time.
I didn't really
as well. I think.
Yeah, well, I didn't pick up on that at all. I just kind of assumed, because we knew that they were together from the very first minute of the first episode.
Well, remember in the first, was it episode 1 or episode 2, where Bronwyn is like, it's almost like an Eowyn thing of like, don't you know, sort of, and he's like, I've told you 100 times in every way but with words. So it's like kind of like he's showing his affection for her in the actions and things that he does. But they've never actually they haven't had the talk of like, so what are we?
Birds and bees.
Where is this going?
Yeah, exactly.
Arondir's like, I banged at least 1,000 women.
So so I completely blanked that. I cut that out of my memory of that kiss. And again, I don't care about it. I really like Arondir. I like his character, but I just have I was really like, every time I saw that Bronwyn was coming close to death, I was like, please, let her die. Let her die.
I thought she was going to die.
Yeah, I agree.
It's annoying that she came back.
I was like, and it would have been nice if she died. Like, I mean, of course, I wouldn't just don't like her, but it would have been nice even as like character development, even more for Arondir, where, and maybe even for Theo as well.
Theo.
Where his mother,
yeah,
his mother has died. That can push him into the dark side. Arondir has a little bit of heartbreak of, a relationship that never really was or what could have been, and but now they have actually kissed and made it an official thing, I suppose, and so it's kind of annoying, but anyway, we'll move on. The orcs attacking, that whole burning carts rolling in, kind of again really kind of
Come back to Bronwyn being annoying.
The trap that they set, where they had these 2 carts, and apparently 2 carts on fire is supposed to block an entire army. Whereas later on, we just see the orc just kicking over this little like wooden fence, and it was like, okay, come on through this way, guys. It's like,
I did say that.
Yeah. Also, though, you've got a question as well with the cart thing. Is why did they put her and that other woman there to like spark this thing to light it when Arondir's already shown he can shoot a flaming arrow very accurately, and it was a much bigger target than a piece of rope. So.
Yeah.
They didn't even use that little spark at all in the end. Wasn't it just the orc's torch?
No,
they killed
it was the orc's torch,
with her scream of,
let's bring, I hate it. Any movie that does this, and you've got the bad guys facing the other way, and then the protagonist or the main character is like, before they hit them.
Yeah, no, I hate that. It's also like a thing when they go like, turn around.
Why stab him in the foot?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's stab him in the foot. Why the foot?
So bad.
So
bad.
Yeah, she did that as well in the very first orc attack scene as well. She just kept screaming. She was like, yeah! And it just sounded so crap, the scream. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't like it.
Also, okay,
there's a lot of things in this show that they keep... Go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say, since we're on the Bronwyn hate bandwagon, the scene, I was really enjoying that vicious scene where Arondir was fighting that giant orc. And in the back of my mind, I actually think I was saying it to myself. And I think one time I was sitting there on my own this morning watching it. I think I said it out loud one time. I was like, please don't let Bronwyn come in and save Arondir. That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah. No,
and I was like, I knew
that.
I knew that's what was going to happen. And I was like, please just let Arondir do it himself and show that he's capable of this. And also, I mean, I think he was like, there was one point where he was doing quite well in this one-on-one fight. He does this like spinning wheel kick thing and like gets the orc like right in the head, and then he just sort of stands there as if he's completely out of breath and stunned, and the orc just punches him in the head. So I was like, what happened there? It was really strange. He was on the front foot, and then suddenly he just stands like completely square in front of the orc.
It's like they cut out an action in the middle of it.
Yeah, and there's a few things in that sequence that I want to point out. First of all, when he's initially dragged down off the roof, that shot. Props to the stunt team.
Wow,
that was fantastic.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
How did they?
There was actually a few moments.
How did they show that it was back to Arondir again? Was there an orc that went in front of the screen?
There was, but it was done so well that
brilliant.
I questioned whether there was a false cut or not because it was very well done.
I need to go back through it and look because there's always the tricks they did in like Lord of the Rings with a false perspective where they would like. I can think of one where I think it's Boromir throws one of the hobbits and it's the shorter person.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, it's
Denethor.
Denethor.
Denethor throws Pippin,
throws it towards camera, and then Pippin
just gets up.
What's his name? Billy Boyd is the one that comes up.
Yeah.
But I can't think if they would have done anything
No, I
like
don't
that.
think
with
they
it.
did. And there was also a shot where the Uruk kind of throws him, and his back like hits the edge of a well.
Yeah.
Just before
Yeah.
the eye thing, and it shows that it's Ismail. You can see it's the actor.
Yeah.
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 That's very, very impressive. Either very safe stonework, and maybe it's like a rubber well or something like that.
Probably
so
is
he's
as
willing
well.
to do the stunt, or very, very.
To be
clever
fair, he's
camera.
wearing armor, so he's probably so padded as well, which helps.
Yeah, but the
Still,
shot
you
they
can get some
normally wouldn't
serious
allow actors to.
like
Oh, yeah.
whiplash on your neck with that kind of an
Yeah.
action.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that whole
Yeah. The other-
fight sequence was very like there was a few things I was like, I don't know, but I really enjoyed most of it in general. I think
So did
especially
I. There was the one shot that was super, super wire-ish. You can just see
Yeah.
straight away, oh, that's wire work. And I hate that. Like, it just looks like wire work. You don't need to put it in. But also, seeing him out of breath kind of bugs me. Like, and I'm going back a little here. When he's trying to break the hilt of the sword, he's out of breath. He hits it 5 times. And he's like, like, what?
Well,
Come on.
we only saw him hit it 5 times, but maybe it was like a Ron Burgundy
He was there for
situation
days.
there where he's like 1001,
I compressed again in like 5
1002.
years.
I mean, even Elrond spent a full afternoon breaking stones before he was out of breath. I suppose.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've seen that elves should be able to endure more than just a few whacks at a sword. And yeah, I agree. And that was one of my points earlier when I said that he was on the front foot. He kicks the orc in the head, and then suddenly he just stands there like he's catching his breath.
It's like a
And I was
Conor
like, "Doesn't
McGregor
make
move
any
as
sense."
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the orc like throws him twice, like a good 5 or 6 meters with crazy force, and he flies through gates and whatnot. And then that moment where he punches Rondir in the head, his head just sort of just goes back a little. Surely someone with that much force would even throw a full body that distance. A punch is going to do a lot more than that.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just stuff like that, like the power scale just goes up and down for
Yeah, it brings you out of the world because there's no
Yeah.
rules.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
physics go out the door a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get the little scene of them being cornered in the tavern. They find out that the people that they've killed, the little victory that they had was that they've actually just killed all of their old mates. They're the other townspeople. Very small number of orcs actually in that area, and most of them were just the other humans. So that was a kind of cool little reveal. I liked that.
It was cool, but
then
I felt like what did they expect? They knew that half the people went away, and I just assumed that they knew that there were some humans in this army, and it was when Arondir started noticing the red blood. I was
red
like,
blood, yeah.
yeah, I was like, of course, I just assumed half these people were men, and you didn't like them anyway, so
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a cool reveal,
Yeah.
but I just it was one that I just had already assumed going into this fight, so.
Yeah, if they had captured the other half of the people, not voluntarily gone, it could have been more of a reveal.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, because you knew they chose to fight, you're like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't care.
that was literally what you said when we
Yeah.
watched it. You went, well, what did they expect?
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah. No, but-
we killed them. It's like, you know well that you were killing men.
Yeah.
Like,
I think for me the reveal was more of the fact that the number of humans that were there as opposed to the orcs, as in it's kind of like the realization of, oh shit, we haven't killed any of the orcs really. They're all still out there and they're all going to attack us in like a few minutes.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what I thought
yeah.
from it. Like, and again, like, I suppose it's
makes
also
more sense.
it's still going to be a bit of a shock to see like, oh, this is my neighbor who I've known for 30 years and I've just killed him. So I mean,
Finally.
yeah, he was pretty prick. So, but then we get that cool scene of Adar again, his presence coming into the tavern, and they just start slowly killing these different people, like just sticking the sword into their bellies and just like slowly
So
pulling
brutal.
through.
Oh, yeah, that first was a proper, like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Nasty.
that was really cool.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on how gross the thing in the
eye,
eye.
yeah. The thing with the big orc.
And all the
Oh,
juices were like coming out of his eye into Arondir's mouth, and then the next scene he's just like, it doesn't
Yeah.
wipe it or spit or anything. Like, dude, that's gross.
He's just getting bits from the top of his head. He's like,
taking pleasure in that kill.
Yep, this one's an orc.
Yeah.
Didn't fool me this time.
Does a Gimli on it. He's like, orc blood. It's like, yeah, mate. You just saw it come out of his eye. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to be going all over the place. If I miss it, then just please jump in and say, hey, what about this? Because
No, that's cool.
that was a cool
is
scene.
exceptionally
Yeah,
brutal. Yeah.
it was. Yeah, I mean, just slowly pulling this like shard of wood out of his own eye, and then just like the black blood just spewing. That was again. I am loving the orcs. I think that the makeup and everything about them is just so class.
This was the scene that I was reverting back to, the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible coincidence as well. Also, just before we move on to the next one, just the actual start of this battle scene where they were looking out into the horizon and then you see the little flames pop up. I thought that was really cool. And I was expecting that this is going to happen. We're going to have a couple of shots and then we'll see like one flame, maybe two. And the way Bear McCreary's score as well, it sounded like plucking of violins every time a new one popped up. I thought that was really nice. So kudos.
Yeah. Just before those flames actually came into shot, we did get some beautiful shots of different things. We saw the sun going down over the village, and then we saw a nighttime shot of just, there was like the moon was on the right hand side of the screen, and then the whole left side of the screen was just black. And I just thought that I just paused it and just stared at that screen for a few minutes because I thought it was gorgeous. But there were some beautiful visuals in this episode as well, and beautiful music backing that as well. So I think we've had that in pretty much every episode.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the two things that I can't criticize throughout the series so far: is the visuals and the music. They've both been fantastic.
100%.
Oh yeah.
So we all agree. Good. And what else happened? Oh, there was so many opportunities for them to kill Bronwyn in that stupid tavern. I was like, come on, kill her. She's right there. And he was like, next, the woman. And they'd killed everyone else so quickly. And they were like, slowly just like, are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? And then it's like,
can I
also, as soon as Dave, as soon as the Rondir was like, I'm going to hide this. Not even you can know. And then Theo was just like staring over in the background.
Yes.
And it's like, surely Arondir is better at, realizing someone's following him than having like some who's supposed to be like half crippled Theo just crawling after him. So that was kind of annoying.
Although I do have to respect at this point though that Arondir was willing to let Bronwyn die. He wasn't going to stop this at all. And I very much have to respect that they took that and it wasn't him that stepped in. I'm like, good.
And he almost told off Theo later on. He's like, don't feel guilty. It wasn't like, good, well done, you saved your mother and we managed to get the proper outcome in the end. He was like, don't feel guilty about being a little bitch and, say where it was. So that was good. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ronder. I think he's cool.
Theo, let me complete my arc. One thing
the circle is complete.
There's been so many times, not just in this episode, although it happened a few times in this episode, but in other episodes too, where they willy-nilly kill any like random, what do they call them, just a red collar person or just like random bystander. But then whenever
the red shirts,
yeah. So like they kill any of those, but like whenever it comes to Bronwyn or Theo or whatever, they always grab them, put a knife to their neck, or they're just about to do something and someone's like, wait. And it's happened a few times where they're in the process of killing people, but then they grab one of the heroes and put a knife to their throat.
Well, it happened twice in this episode with Adar as well. Like
there's so many tropes that are just used over and over and over again in this show, like that. That's one. Another one is like when Bronwyn saves Arondir. Like, how many times can someone save someone else just at the right moment? They're like just in the nick of time. Like it really, really bugs me.
Arondir saving
that's
Theo.
Not realistic.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit annoying. All right, there are quite a few tropes, and there's one big one later on that I'll get to. But so Theo gives up the dagger anyway, and then Numenor suddenly just arrives and they charge in. We saw this charge in the trailers, so it was cool to finally get to see that play out. And I thought it was cool how they I just don't understand how there's so many Numenorians coming in to save like 35 townspeople. Like it seems like it's such a small little village, and it's like the king of the whole Southlands. It's like, I've got like, there's like 4 families here that I'm going to be the king of, and so it just seemed like a bit of overkill. Like I don't really get it, but I mean, the charge was cool, and I like seeing Lord of the Rings charge of horses. It's always cool, and the music was good. So, what was your opinions on that then?
I want to bring up a gripe about this actually, and this is all down to time again. Is how on the ships was Elendil like, okay, we got a day of sailing and a day of riding, and then we'll get there, and suddenly overnight they're there.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't make it sound like they had to like stake out for an extra day and stuff to hold it off or anything like that. It was like the whole day was cut off their journey just because Miriel goes, let's have some haste, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we didn't think of that. It's like, it just
Oh, I
doesn't make
didn't-
sense to me of how they just cut that out. Like,
Time compression.
yeah.
I honestly,
again.
I honestly did think it was overnight, or they would have traveled overnight while this was happening, because they do arrive at dawn, and so like maybe they arrive at dawn the previous day, and then they travel all that day and all night, and then they arrive at dawn the following day. So it is a full
Yeah.
day's ride, right?
I think they arrive exactly when they mean to.
Yeah, but it's even. I think I would have liked a shot though, so like at least them arriving and seeing the situation, because they just charge in.
Yeah,
they
it's
don't
true.
know what's
it's-
going on. They
it's
don't
a-
necessarily know who's the good guys, who's the bad guys.
Yeah.
They just know there's like they've already proven. There's
It
a
also
lot of
seems like they've
people
been
dressed
in-
up as orcs.
It seems like they've been in full gallop charge for like the entire morning or
Yeah.
the entire night as well. Like how long have they just been like their horses must be exhausted. They're just saying, go,
And
go,
have,
go.
they-
And
have any of them ever seen orcs?
No,
They don't
I'm
even
pretty
know
sure
what
you'd
they're
know
facing.
one when you see it.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah, I
smell
know,
one.
but it's also another example of someone, or in this case, people arriving precisely when they need to.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah,
bugs
it was
me.
it's a little bit too fortuitous, I suppose. And
Like in most films, in most TV shows, you get a moment where there's a tension build up where someone's about to die and then someone saves them at the last second. That happens, but it's happened like 4 or
Yeah.
5 times in
So
6 episodes.
I feel like that situation, all you really had to do was say, okay, they don't kill him. They try killing a few. Arondir won't talk, so they capture them and they basically torture one of them or a couple of them and play out that extra day. And then the Numenoreans come. So it's like they haven't come in time to stop anyone from being hurt,
yeah.
but they do at least save the day. And you'd only need to do a little bit to make that work rather than cut out a load. What it feels like.
yeah,
Thinking about it, I think they actually do that trope like 4, no, maybe 5 times in this episode.
Yeah.
Like the saving at the last moment.
Yeah.
That's just poor writing.
It does
it's quite a lot.
take you out of it and kind of feel like there are no stakes, because you do just kind of get used to it, and you just don't ever feel
Yeah.
like there's any tension, because someone's always going to be rescued no matter what, because you aren't really
Yeah.
thinking about the Numenoreans at this moment in time. You're thinking the last time I saw them they hadn't even gotten onto land, but then suddenly
Yeah.
here they're charging in, so
Yeah.
that might be a
Yeah.
I
bit
mean, we
poor.
can compare it to the Lord of the Rings films again. If basically at Two Towers, Haldir
Gandalf.
dies, and then I was going to say Haldir dies, then Gandalf arrives after that.
Yeah,
so it's
That's
like
true, yeah.
it's one of those where it shows that there were stakes, and not everyone is just going to
And-
make it out. But
and
the
also with-
reinforcements do come eventually.
Sorry, yeah, and also with Gandalf arriving just at that exact moment when they had to like it was their final sort of charge of Theoden and Aragorn like going out to their death basically, and Gandalf arrives just in time. But we had kind of again at the very beginning of the Fellowship, Gandalf says that a wizard always arrives precisely when he means to, and he had also told Aragorn like on
Yeah.
the first slide of the 5th day, look for my coming.
Exactly. They're essentially
so-
holding out for that moment.
Yeah, so that's like all of that had like that was that kind of arc all being paid off there in that moment where you're kind of going, he knew he was going to come exactly at that moment, and he's a wizard, so we can expect that from someone like him as well. So we'll move on, because I think
we'll get
we
too
all have similar
frustrated.
feelings about this. Yeah, but what's next is that we see. Oh, also as well, what was kind of weird was they all charge in. And then we look up, we see on the hill, we see, where you'd expect you see Miriel and maybe some of her high, advisors there, and they're not in the battle. But Isildur's up there
Only
with them for
Isildur,
some reason, who is a stable boy. And then she just like looks at him and goes, go. And he just charged up. I was like, what was that about?
Yeah.
Like, and he goes
was
on his
our
own as
exact
well.
reaction.
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
all
I was
that
like,
about?
they just send in reinforcements in one at a time or something? Like,
Yeah, I always
what?
feel like that needed a setup of Elendil being like, look, don't let my son go. Like, he's kind of found his way onto this ship, but I'm not granting him the chance to actually be a soldier. He is there to basically sweep the stables, and that's it. And that's why he wasn't in the battle. And then you could kind of accept a bit more why he was there, at least, and not in the battle
I
in the first
never
place.
picked up on this at all, actually.
It was very strange. It was just, but also it was like in a moment where the Numenoreans were just like, running through the orcs. They were wiping out. There wasn't really that much danger. There was a couple of little people obviously getting overwhelmed by a few orcs. But in general, they were just like wiping them out. Like, Rohirrim at the Pelennor Field style. And suddenly she's like, Isildur, you go on your own. I was like, what's he supposed to do? And what is the purpose of this? It didn't seem it didn't make any sense to me in the moment. But
No.
if someone can explain, I mean, like, you know, someone could drop us a comment and say what they think was actually happening there, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I would love to know because I can't think of a single reason why that was the
Yeah.
case.
Although, just to say something slightly more positive at the moment,
No.
because might need to bring it up. I do feel like the horse charge, though, is they really got the point of the weight of the horses across well in this,
Yes.
which may sound like a really random thing, but like it's maybe one thing that goes against the Rohirrim charge at Pelennor is that all the orcs just bounce off and there's no like broken stride or nothing. Nothing feels like there's a big impact. Where this, every horse hit feels like there's damage. And it's just one of those little bits that really sells you on that battle scene, and I think they did really well with it.
Although I think they take away from that again within a few minutes, but we'll get to that.
Right.
Yeah, we're not there
Okay.
yet.
Oh well, I was going to say I was going to actually say that the horse stunts in this episode were incredible, and I don't know, Jake, is this the thing that is going to be taken away later? But I thought later with the Halbrand stunt, I thought that was incredible. How like that was a real horse, was it? It didn't seem like there was any CGI in that where it just like flipped over and landed on its back, or I don't know, just the way that they actually did that.
It looked fantastic, but
Yeah.
what did that horse weigh? Like 5 pounds? Because how is his arm or shoulder not ripped out the socket?
Who Halbrand or
Halbrand.
Oh,
right.
No,
Halbrand.
because
Imagine holding the weight of a spear, full arm length out, and then a horse charging into it. You're
Did
not
he
winning that.
did he still hold on to the spear, or did he just throw it in, or what happened?
No, he
No, he held
No,
on
he
to it.
held
Because
it.
if
He
you
holds
let
onto
go
it.
of it, the horse is
He
going to carry
basically
on.
swept the leg.
That's true. Yeah.
the thing was, I thought
Yeah.
he was going to try and like jam it within the horse's stride, but he kind of just put
Yes.
it right out in front of
Yeah.
the horse. So I thought that was a little bit strange. If he jammed it in there,
It's almost like some Sauron strength.
Well, maybe it wasn't so badly shot then. Maybe,
Yeah, maybe.
there's a reason behind that as well. So,
but in general, this
Um,
battle was pretty cool. There were a lot of nice little fight scenes and
Yes.
choreographed bits, which I enjoyed.
I agree.
and I'm gonna
No,
thoroughly
yeah, I
enjoy
agree.
looking back at it as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be rewatching it again after we finish recording this. Now, what's next? Elendil gets saved by Halbrand, and I think I enjoyed Halbrand a lot.
Just in
this
the nick of
episode.
time.
Just in the nick of time. Just in the nick of time, exactly. Again, it looked like Isildur was going to come down and get that save of his father, but we see a spear being thrown, and it turns out it's Halbrand, who kind of similar to, again, I can watch any movie and I'll be reminded of Lord of the Rings, but it reminds me of when Boromir was saved by Aragorn throwing the sword in the...
It's the little nod.
In
Yeah.
and the little nod, when they're in the Mines of Moria. So that was kind of, I don't know, as I said, maybe I'm reaching again because...
Bit reminiscent, a little, yeah.
A little bit reminiscent of that. But
Yeah, no, see, I saw it as the Warg attack one, where, isn't it Aragorn
yeah.
on the horse, throws it and it lands on Gimli,
Yeah.
throws the spear into the Warg.
yeah.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
I think we're all the same. We
By
all
the
just
way,
get
there's
reminded
so-
of Lord of the Rings. By
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many
anytime I see it.
parallels between Halbrand and Aragorn, though, right?
There are, yeah.
I see a lot of it online.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are just saying they're just rewriting Aragorn's story. Unless he does turn out to be Sauron, it is essentially Aragorn's story.
They're just rewriting Sauron's story. That's
Yeah.
not fair.
It was weird that later on as well, where they're like, "Oh, the king has returned." He's like, "Are you the king?" He's like, "Yep, I'm the king. I'm here." It just seems so
No,
sure.
he needs to pause for 20 seconds. Am I the king?
Yeah,
Yes.
gives a little smile and just like flicks his hair. He's like, "Yep."
Now
I'm
this
the
was
king, honey.
this was another part where I really like Galadriel. I think we've kind of all gotten over the fact that she's warrior Galadriel at this point, but I did enjoy seeing her, especially the dodges with the spears. They were really, really cool. At first,
They were quite cool.
there was a couple of things like when she was in Numenor and she was training with the soldiers, and I just thought that whole thing was a bit janky and quirky and just, I don't know, she seemed like she was having a good time, but she just seemed like she was a bit of a spoiled child, where she's actually in a battle and she's doing all the moves, dodging spears. That was really cool. So I liked it. I like Galadriel in this scene.
I did like that. Yeah. Sorry, jump in
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say, I kind of felt like that thing though of leaning off the side of the horse was almost like they're like, oh, this looks cool, and they wanted to do it a bit, like maybe one too many times.
A few times. Was
They
it?
I thought it was like I thought it was like a
3 times
one-off
maybe?
thing to do it, but
It's like when
Yeah, I thought it was
it's like when
overused.
someone takes a shot at a goalkeeper and it's kind of an easy enough save, and they do a huge big dive to grab the ball and
Yeah, right.
do one for the
Yeah.
cameras.
Hollywood
Yeah.
It's a
save.
spear. Probably this would do.
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
Yeah.
It's only this
I'm-
big.
but again, I suppose she's just like removing her entire body as a target, and she's got. Oh, there's definitely that reminded me of some other movie. I can't even think of it now. I think it was some, like The Last Samurai or some sort of movie like that, where there are these like Mongolians, and they're just amazing horse riders, and they're always doing these kind of stunts where they hop off the side of the horse and they kind of bounce on the ground and come back.
They
on
do
again.
that when they jump up on top and like shoot their arrows, where they're actually almost standing hunched on the horse. Isn't that in the last one?
I can't remember what movie it is I'm thinking of, but it reminded me of that, which I don't know. I just thought it was a kind of a cool little thing, and I agree that it was fun to see. Maybe they didn't need to repeat that action and just have the
I agree. There was the one moment where she does it the one time, and there's she's approaching an orc and she beheads it, but from like this upside down near the ground angle. Like, again, physics didn't really make a lot of sense.
I'm going to say I loved it. I loved it.
Did you guys like Arondir fangirling over Galadriel as well? Where Theo was like,
I did,
who is that?
I did.
And he's just like, that is Galadriel. The whatever.
Yeah.
But I kind of was expecting Theo to be like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that means nothing to
say
him.
again?
It's just...
Yeah, I know, but it's just one of those movie tropes again where someone's like, who is that? And then you give the name.
Yeah.
But
Sure. But again, I suppose
Galadriel, mate.
Theo knows Arondir fairly well, I suppose. And he was like, oh, well, if Arondir is starstruck by this person, they must be important. So.
yeah, I liked seeing him starstruck Arondir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. Also, I made a note when I was watching it of the music when Galadriel was chasing Adar on horseback. I thought it was incredible as well.
That's
It
the
was
music.
a great scene going through that forest with all those trees, and the music just built up, and that was an amazing scene. I'll come to you, Dave. What did you think of that scene?
No, I was just going to say I hadn't heard that music yet, and that's the one that Bear McCreary has done twice live. Do you remember he did it for the after party that we went to, and also that was the first time at Comic-Con when they did. Sorry, yeah, chills.
Yeah.
But like, that whole
It gave you chills? Is that what you're saying?
it gave me chills, that operatic thing, or the choir and the opera.
I can't remember the title of the song, but yeah, it's got some weird, like, it's almost like Nampat something. I know Nampat is the orc one, but it's got some weird like elvish title as well. I've listened to that one quite a few times over the last few days actually as well. It's an amazing.
But this is the first time
Fantastic.
I think that we've heard it in the actual Rings of Power
I think so.
show. I think so. Yeah,
You might be right. I'm not sure.
That was cool.
What did you boys think of that? From even just the way that that scene was shot.
Stunning. No complaints about that one.
No, the actual chase was good. It seemed tense enough, and they paced it well. It just came down to the Halbrand, how he got ahead of them.
Yeah,
for one,
that was.
And then how he just took out a horse's legs. It just didn't make sense. So
sure,
it's
as you
another
said,
one of those movie tropes.
Sauron.
I did think that at the time. Like, how's Halbrand coming from the other direction? Surely they're both charging so far away from the battle scene.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
they're
sure, it
going
was
in
a straight line away. That was it.
Unless they're going in a weird circle and Halbrand just took the other route.
He used dark magic.
But maybe.
Yeah.
But
also, while we're on the subject of Halbrand Sauron, there was the moment where he briefly talks to Adar when he's chained up.
Oh yeah.
And as Halbrand's walking away, he says, like, "Who are you?" And he just sort of
Pauses for a moment.
casually looks over his shoulder and walks
I was
away.
waiting for like the sunglasses to come on.
Yeah, that was a confirmation for me, I think. Just to harken back to the little chase scene there with the horses, obviously that really was reminiscent of Arwen's ride away from the Nazgul, and the fact that she says Nora Alim, which is like stride hard or
So like run fast or
faster,
something
yeah.
along those lines.
so something like that, which is really cool. It's the exact same
It's
lines
a
as Arwen.
Glorfindel line, right?
Originally,
Probably Glorfindel, yeah. Also, does Glorfindel actually say the line in the book as well?
Yes.
Okay, well,
I
there you
thought
go.
again, just one thought that I had in that scene, which was kind of cool, was the fact that in what we've seen of that before. Again, it was very reminiscent. I think every one of us had that same image of the Fellowship movie where Arwen is charging and she whispers to the horse. But I was like, this is almost the same. However, she's trying to speed the horse in order to catch someone instead of being chased, like chasing, running away from someone. So it was kind of like flipping it on its head a little bit as well, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But also I think it was cool when Halbrand was standing over Adar and he just says, "Remember me?" And I was like, is that because you used to be his boss? Or,
well, I think it might be. I think it literally could be him saying, "Do you remember me?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, yeah. Well, you thought you destroyed my old form, but now I've taken this new form."
And also maybe
hope
when he
is
said
the
remember, if he said remember me, and Adar's like, no, he's like, oh, this whole like shapeshifting thing actually works. Nice one.
It really
yeah,
works.
yeah.
Really? Do I not look like the Dark Lord?
Or potentially, just thinking, is if it's maybe Adar's like, it's a plan. that this is Sauron's plan and Adar's in on it, but he can't reveal it. So he's almost like testing him. It's like, you still in on this plan? Like, are you still aware?
Maybe.
So he's like, do you?
Especially after
He's
he
like,
just
no. So
stabbed
it's like,
his
okay,
hand.
we're still good. Yeah.
That was another
I know.
trope that I thought was about to come, where he's just about to reach for the thing, and I was like, I bet you someone's foot is just going to land there. Next thing, the knife or the spear, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And
Although
that was the reveal of him bleeding black blood as well, which is quite cool.
That was very cool.
Right, cool.
I didn't actually pick up on it then until later on when Galadriel put the blade to his neck, and then we get it even clearer when she's wiping the black blood off his off the sword.
Yeah.
So that was very cool. I liked that as well. Then so cutting to that scene then as well. We come back. We get a little scene of the Haldar being named the king, and nothing really amazing happens there. Sorry, what? Yeah,
you said Hadar. That's like a mix of Adar and Halbrand. Now we got Haldar.
I don't know. I was going to mention jump into the scene of Adar, and then I got confused. I'm sorry. So we jump to the scene of Galadriel questioning Adar, and I thought it was really cool. We go straight into the barn, and the camera's got this tilt to make you feel really uneasy, and I thought that was a cool little way of it being shot, and that was a cool scene. Again, I liked. There was some things that I was a bit confused about. How, first of all, Adar was saying, okay, like it looked like we're going to be led down this road of how orcs have souls and that they are redeemable, but then we got Galadriel saying, from my perspective, that's not true at all. And we get the reveal. Oh, sorry. For me, I thought, this is the reveal of him having the black blood. But we find out that he is actually indeed the father of the orcs, and he is the original. And he even refers to himself as an Uruk. So there was a lot going on. There was a lot happening in that scene. But I think for me in general, I really like that scene. What about you guys, James?
I felt like it started strong and kind of ended a bit Galadriel-y.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the dialogue at the beginning of it and the way they were setting it up, and you could see Adar trying to get in Galadriel's head and stuff, and I think all that was being built up well. But the fact she kind of snapped and basically threatened to like torture him, it just seemed that seemed off to me.
But it was stupid. She basically threatened to keep him alive so that he could suffer and watch them all die. And then it was like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why bother making this really big threat? It just...
But also the big threat wasn't
from
Galadriel.
my point of view, it's bad writing. No, it's definitely not Galadriel.
Yeah.
She is Sauron.
It crossed my mind during that scene.
Honestly, I would be happier with that than her actually being Galadriel.
Wow. Could you imagine? That would be an amazing twist. That would be class. Yeah. It was weird how, like, we've seen that in so many movies before as the villain saying, I'm going to keep you alive to watch all your family die, and then I'll kill you last. That's like, we've never seen that from like our big hero, I think.
Protagonist. Yeah, that's exactly what was going through my mind during that scene was, imagine if the music was slightly different and if it was Adar that was saying this to Galadriel, then you would be like,
exactly.
Oh my God.
She's not a likable character in any way. No part of her is likable.
No.
There you go. I like her hair. I think it's lovely.
I like the actress.
Yeah.
Just don't like what they've given her.
Yeah. It is a bit strange the way we're 6 episodes in and we still haven't really warmed to her that much either. So
we do get the confirmation in the scene of Adar. I think you kind of mentioned it, Johnny, how he was one of the original corrupted elves that Morgoth had taken in, and the fact that he's still alive kind of confirms that, elves are like orcs are immortal in a way. I know we talked about this in our orcs episode, how some can die of disease and some can
then
this, that,
again,
and the other.
no, I would say not necessarily, because remember the orcs that are what he calls now his children, they could be like, they could be generations and generations of breeding. After all the different these orcs that are alive now, because of whatever's happened through the breeding process over the millennia, maybe now their lives have been shortened and they only live to be
true. But like
the length of a life of man.
If Adar is like the first and true Uruk that he kind of thinks of himself as, he's immortal. Like, he's not dying anytime soon.
And that's the question: what would happen to his soul when he gets killed?
Because it is weird how he still holds on to some of those elvish traditions, and he still basks in the sunlight. He still speaks Quenya. He talks about his days of living in Beleriand, and there are a couple of things that make you feel like some of his soul is still there, but at the same time he bleeds orc blood. He refers to himself as an uruk, and it's a little bit confusing, but
I like it though. I like this. I like being confused. And
I like being confused.
I also think it's very interesting that he's saying that he killed Sauron.
Yeah.
He's saying that he is the one and only true bad guy.
Is that a
what
metaphor?
do you think? I mean, is that just complete
I don't know.
bollocks?
It's a euphemism.
I think so. I think it was just. Yeah, I don't believe he generally physically stabbed Sauron. I just
No. Maybe.
Maybe he did, and he genuinely thinks he's dead, and Halbrand is really. They could be going down that route. I don't know.
What was what does anybody remember the quote that he said of how he said he killed Sauron? He said like he split him in two or something, or
Yeah, he said
yeah.
something like that.
I think it was pretty much like a stab and split in two, wasn't it? Because he got fed up of him basically experimenting on his children.
yeah,
which
that
is
was interesting. Yeah,
which is understandable.
Yeah, I can't see how that could be. I just can't see how they would do that. Obviously, 'cause he obviously doesn't kill him for one.
Sure.
But I just don't get how they would work that into it at all.
The first time Sauron's body is supposed to be destroyed is the fall of Numenor. So they're either changing that canon there, or else it could be a metaphorical thing. It could be like Anakin saying, "I killed Darth Vader," or sorry, no, Darth Vader saying, "I killed Anakin." Isn't that what he says? Yeah. So maybe Adar is Sauron. Who knows?
We don't know.
Very
But,
confusing.
If there's no other comments on that, we're going to move on to what happened to the dagger, which was... I can't understand how you could reclaim this massively important thing that's wrapped in this little blanket and not go, I'm going to have a little look and make sure that it's in this blanket and make sure that that's actually the dagger.
Or
and,
at least put something that's the same shape inside.
Yeah.
It was an axe.
I mean, not really. I mean, well, the only positive thing, or the only thing that I could say for that would be that the person who reclaimed it, which was Galadriel initially, I suppose, or Halbrand, I can't remember which one that picked it up initially, neither of them had seen it before, so they didn't know what shape
That's
it was
true,
supposed to be.
That's true,
Like,
yeah.
the only person that really
But
should have
Arondir
known...
was carrying it around.
Arondir then was carrying it around, and so was Theo, so, there was no excuse, for
But
that.
also, obviously, when Adar first claims it, at some point he's got to do the old switcheroo, right? And he gives it to
Gives
Waldrick.
Waldrick. Well, he says earlier in the episode, like, I've got a task for you, doesn't he? So
But after this whole thing that he's been doing, right, has been looking for that weapon. Now, that's been a lot of work. A lot's been at stake in finding that weapon, that key, I suppose. Mm-hmm. He finally finds it, and he's like, here you go, man that I've known for 2 days.
Yeah.
You do the important
Does
bit.
he not have
just
like a
trusts this
really
guy.
highly trusted orc that's, his... Just
Yeah.
because we know who Waldrick is, I suppose.
Yeah,
that's the only reason.
but at the same time, like, he does get Waldrick to do that sacrifice thing, kill whatever that guy's name, Rylan, or I don't know that kid's name.
Rowan.
True,
But Rowan,
true,
and
true.
then that was kind of him sacrificing himself or committing himself to Adar. And you see as well upon that battle, he's his right hand man. Waldrick is right beside
he's
Adar
on his
when
shoulder,
they're marching up. So I did
is
kind of
true.
feel like
True.
right, he has crossed a border and he is well in there with Adar, and Adar truly trusts him.
That's true.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Nazgul
take that,
territory
Jake.
for him. But one thing as well that I was really hoping was not going to be true has turned out to be true, that this
The
dagger
MacGuffin.
is in fact a key, and in a literal sense, which I was really hoping that wasn't going to be the situation. But again, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I didn't like that at all. The idea of you just get this sword that we've, it's a power, but you just pop it into this little keyhole and twist it, and that's the thing. I mean, it led on to one of the most incredibly beautiful visual scenes that we saw, but didn't like that. I don't like that idea. What's your idea of that?
I 100% agree. I like you said, I love the visuals of the lava and the flow of the water going through the pits and stuff. That looked incredible. But the idea of, just get this random dude from the Southlands to turn a key, which creates Mordor. What?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
mad. I would rather, if we're going to see the creation of Mordor, I want to see Sauron stood there like, some black speech using some magic, and that would be cooler than.
yeah, exactly.
But what I don't understand is if this is all that it has been created for, and there's so much importance of releasing this dam or whatever, why does it have this other dark magic where it drinks blood, where it has to form into like a fully fleshed blade. Like is there
Yeah,
a
I thought
power
there was going to be
within
more
it?
to that.
That's
Is this the
one
last
of my
we've seen
points,
of
that
the
it's kind of
sword?
annoying that. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that there's more to this sword, and it's not just that it is actually a key. Because as I said, I think that's kind of lazy. I don't really like that idea.
And for what it actually did of releasing the dam, that was nothing that a bunch of really strong people couldn't have gone and broken the block.
Yeah.
It wasn't like anything. It wasn't like a magical gate as such.
Yeah.
It literally just it was a dam which could be broken, as proven by Ents.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I could kind of get on board with it because I think I'd accepted that it was a key because I just didn't feel like they were gonna be clever enough to do anything different with it. So I felt like that was going to happen anyway. Maybe not to the extreme of like releasing Mordor into Mordor and erupting the volcano, but the magical key thing I could kind of get. Like I wasn't that bothered by.
But literally the whole thing where it kind of tastes blood and then the flames and the smoke create this sword. Like that's completely irrelevant now.
Yeah.
It's completely pointless.
It could have just been
the payoff didn't come.
Yeah, it could have just been that they put the hilt in and twist the hilt, and that's it. It was unnecessary for
It would have changed nothing.
But
It
also,
wouldn't have changed anything. Yeah.
like if you actually just like take a step back and look at what it actually does, what does it do? It's twisting something, and all it's doing is knocking a couple of rocks down. They still had to build this big trench, so that trench, it didn't like unlock a trench. Like whose master key stroke was it to have this key that just like unlocked a dam? Like how?
Yeah, because if the orcs hadn't dug all those tunnels,
Yeah,
then it would have just flown onto the.
It would have just been like this.
Yeah.
Basically,
Onto the
whoever
plains,
made this evil blade thing was like, so this releases the dam. If you ever want
Don't
the dam
release
to be
it
released,
until you dig all the tunnels, please. Make sure you do them in the right order. Okay.
but
But again, it was cool that we see. Okay, this is the reason why they're digging the tunnels as well. And when they say how did actually they cause the eruption of the volcano, it was cool to see. Oh, they've actually just pouring water into it. I never would have thought of that. And I don't like. Would that even work? I don't know.
yeah, I looked it up.
But it.
Water
did?
mixed
All
with
right.
like lava, it creates an explosive effect.
It,
so
like
that-
when I
pretty cool.
saw it, it looked like, oh yeah, that would make sense. But then after I was like, I wonder. But like initially,
Yeah, it would have been a bit awkward if it just put it out.
yeah, that would have been awful funny.
But that would have made more sense though, because the dam was built by the elves as a watchtower. So the good guys built it as a way to protect it. So letting it go then would almost be like, well, we're helping extinguish the end fire. There's like a backup if they came back.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. Maybe it was to release. Maybe the elves built this dam thing, and that was to put out the lava if it kind of seeped out of the mountain. But the fact that the fact that the orcs tunneled it right into the entrance created the explosion that would erupt the Mount Doom or Druin. I don't know. It's a weird one. I'm going to need some more explanation. I really hope they bring out like what do they call it? Like a visual dictionary where you can have a whole book explaining every single little thing.
That would be
went
great,
on.
but I also feel like if you've got to rely on something like that, then you've failed as a filmmaker.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But
No, but like as
still
I
want
went back
those.
to a minute ago, as I said a moment ago, it was kind of like an afterthought where I thought, would that actually cause it to work? But initially, in the moment, I saw the water mixing down, and again, the way these things have been filmed and the CGI that's involved and the practical effects like together, it looked incredible. And I had no doubt in the moment of watching it, I was like, oh, of course that would work. And then it was later when I was like, wait a minute. But Dave, if you said you've looked it up and it actually does make science sense, well then cool.
Well, one thing on Google said that, so I was satisfied.
I will trust one Google.
Well, as
entry that will
Abraham
deal
Lincoln
for me.
once said, everything on the internet is believable and trustworthy.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
I
too.
saw that. Yeah.
It was a tweet. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else from this episode now that's neat.
Well, then the
What-
actual
what-
explosion,
the actual
of
volcano
Ur-Druin,
and the actual well, give us your thoughts on that as well, guys. Because for me, I was like blown away, no pun intended, by the visuals there. And
No, I hadn't. I was blown away as well. Although it's very, very odd that Galadriel was not blown away.
Yeah.
Like surely, like lava kills people, you know.
Pompeii, like
Explosions
most of those
of
people
lava.
died by the actual ash. And
Yeah.
we've seen, I know, Johnny, you said we've pretty much seen everything from the trailers now, but I did remember that trailer scene of Galadriel waking up.
we know
with
what's
the
going to
ash.
happen.
She's
we know
covered
what the beginning
in
of
hot,
episode 7 is going to be.
molten ash. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a silly scientific thing. Like, they got one thing
Also-
right, and then
Oh, I've just remembered something we've forgotten, guys.
oh, right. The kiss scene.
We have forgotten the scene of dialogue between Halbrand and Galadriel.
Oh,
where
no.
he says, like, I will never forget the feeling of riding into battle with you. And she's like, I felt the same.
I
felt it too.
purposefully skipped over that because I
Oh,
was
God,
just,
yeah.
don't really want to talk
I
about it.
looked at James and I was like, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because I didn't necessarily take that as like a sexual thing.
Oh,
I
no,
took
me neither.
That as I took that as like a bond between people that's not in any way like that.
Love
That's
killing.
for me, that's setting up almost Halbrand to become a Nazgul. Like they get so close, she builds him up for him to fall and have a massive effect on her. That's kind of where I saw
Any
it
kind
going.
of love story here doesn't work for me. I don't care.
No,
if
but
it's
that's
not
what I'm saying.
sexual.
I didn't get that from this scene. I got it as a more Tolkien relationship of bonding.
I agree.
personally.
I got
But I
that.
know a lot
so
of
I
people
disagree. I disagree.
Okay, and again, like I mean, it's open to you can have your own whatever you feel about that. But I agree that I didn't feel I was worried. I was definitely worried when they started talking, and when towards the end, again, like Halbrand sort of like looks over at her kind of slowly, and he's all looking sexy, and I'm like, oh no, this is he's very dangerous. But in general, I didn't get that feeling that it was going to be that they were going to be trying to push that love story. I thought it was going to be more of like brothers in arms kind of bond sort of a thing.
Nah, well, the way that line was delivered when she was like, I felt it too.
Yeah.
That combined with the fact that Halbrand was initially listed, was it on IMDb or somewhere, as Galadriel's love interest. Those two things combined.
I think that was written by just some idiot. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, it was just some website. I don't think it was like an official.
As Abraham Lincoln
But that
once
was written
said,
before this even came out.
You get so I mean, like just yesterday I was on my phone and I was just flicking through something and I saw this thing and it was like saying Rings of Power writer confirms plot hole something. And I was like, oh, like it was very clickbaity and I was like, all right, I'll click into it. I clicked it and within the first 5 seconds I could see that they were saying how like it was like first of all, the person that was writing the article was like, at the end of the Lord of the Rings movies, Frodo and Sam are taken to Mount Doom by the Eagles. And I was like, well, I'm out. I'm already out. Like, but I was like, okay, I need to just read on for a bit more. And they were saying like basically this big giant plot hole was the fact that the Eagles could have just flown them to Mount Doom. But from the beginning of the Rings of Power, we saw an eagle being killed by a dragon. So that was the end. And I was like, this is just complete bollocks been written by some idiot who doesn't know anything really. So
Jesus.
I mean, I don't believe. Yeah. So I've got the same kind of feeling about that kind of thing that they're saying. Oh, this is Galadriel's love interest. I don't believe. I will not.
I certainly hope not.
Yeah.
If they do pursue a relationship between the two of them, I don't think I can defend the show in any way.
well,
anymore.
I don't think
be-
that they will pursue a relationship between the two, but I definitely think that they are trying to tell the audience that they have feelings for each other. But they're probably saying, here, like mainstream audiences that don't know anything about Tolkien, these two have a connection, but like we're not completely going there so that the Tolkien fans will be, ridiculing the show. I think they're just playing with that that gray area where they're like, we'll appease to the mainstream audiences, but we're not going to make them kiss or anything. So hopefully not. But yeah, this ending, pretty insane. The visuals were incredible. Did seem like Mount Doom was really, really far away, and then suddenly, I would have been okay with one or two big kind of crater things, or not crater things. What are they called? Like not meteorites. What are they called? Rocks flying out of them.
Just the debris, basically.
The debris, yeah. But like, it seemed like loads were hitting them, and they're really far away. So
Also, did any of you guys pick up on the fact that there was loads of extras just running around, and nobody was looking up? Nobody was like, "Where are these rocks coming from?" There was people just kind of running, looking straight forward, and then getting crushed by the rocks. So obviously, the extras just run around and look like everything's like there's mayhem ensuing.
I'm not defending, but they did shout the line of just run for cover or get to cover.
Okay.
So,
But
I
as
don't
you're
know
running
if
to
those shots
cover,
would have been before or after that.
I imagine as you're running to cover, you'll be looking over your shoulder and you'll be able to see at least some giant boulders coming towards you or not, because it just seemed like...
I mean, I don't think they haven't put too much attention into what the extras are doing. There's a shot that we looked at earlier from the episode where Arondi has been captured and they're all trying to hit their chains to escape. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
I think it's episode 3. There's a shot of a extra in the background and she's got like a mallet or something, I don't know. She's just hitting the ground and completely missing her
She's
chin.
not even looking down or anything.
just
She's like looking over there.
like
It's
here.
like a Monty Python thing, or
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Oh yeah, and again, I mean, we can pick those kind of things, but I mean, if we go back to the original Lord of the Rings series, we can find so many background extra things that are silly or whatever as well. So I mean, that happens in all sorts of it happens in all filming projects. So I mean, I'd be more concerned about if we've got problems with the writing or story rather than just some extra doing something.
I agree.
stupid.
I saw a comparison with Game of Thrones because there was that one like famous picture where there was like a Starbucks cup or something in one of the episodes that was left on the table, and that was just shared around by them being like, "That's really funny." Whereas Rings of Power, everything gets shared around, being like, "Nope, it makes it the worst show ever because you made a mistake."
Yeah, I shared that on Twitter last week. All right, just saying like this is something that was kind of no big deal. It was just sort of behind the curtain. And now any small little thing like that, like any little mistake or background thing, it's just like the end of the world for people that want to just hate on the series. But I mean, that's fine. Yeah. So I think that was most of the episode. Does anybody have any remaining thoughts? If not,
I don't think so.
no. Right.
I mean,
overall,
I listened to the dwarves, so that's it.
where would you put this episode overall compared to the previous ones? Or where does it stack up?
It's difficult because pacing wise, action wise, it was probably the best one so far. But there was also so many of those tropes, like those I'll arrive at the last minute to save you, and it just removed so much tension for me. And Galadriel being not Galadriel, stuff like that really, really knocks it down for me. So yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I don't know where to put it.
Right. Okay.
I would probably put it as one of the more enjoyable episodes. Like if you were going to tell me now, I have to sit down and rewatch one episode of the 6 so far. Probably going to pick this one.
Okay.
But again, it's an action big battle one. I'm probably more likely to as that kind of thing. It kind of all comes down to the same issues of there are many issues, but it's not too bad.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I like the fact that they've merged two of the storylines together, Numenor and the Southlands, because I did kind of find that the Southlands were some of the most boring scenes. Or I just didn't care about a lot of the characters there. And also the fact that they left out all the other storylines. Yeah, the Harfoot's always slowing down the episodes. Like as much as I do love the Linden scenes and the Khazad-dûm scenes, it would have slowed down the episode to just have one or two random scenes of Durin and Elrond, but I can't wait for that to be the center of attention next week, hopefully. I know there obviously are going to be some more Southland scenes, but yeah, I was happy with this episode overall, and there's a lot of things that may be weird about this, but depending on how the end of the season goes, I might look back at it fondly, or I might look back at it and be like, that's the scene where Halbrand and Galadriel first started flirting with each other, and look where they are now.
Yeah.
But yeah. What about yourself?
I agree to an extent that like visually, I thought this was a very enjoyable episode. Of course, as we've already mentioned before, there was a lot of action, the most action I think of any episode so far, and also we got to see the eruption of Mount Doom.
Incredible.
Or Druin, which is something that, I mean, I never imagined I'd get to see that on film before, so that was pretty cool, and you'd have to give that as a big thumbs up or a big plus in this episode as well. So yeah, overall I enjoyed it. As we've mentioned in our breakdown, there were quite a few things and quite a few tropes that were maybe not my favorites, but to stack it up alongside other episodes, I'd say this is well up there, maybe the best one so far. I don't know. I think it was pretty good. One
last thing to mention is, as soon as I saw the title of the episode, Udun, I was like, Mount Doom is going to erupt. Like, that was a little bit of a spoiler. So
yeah,
but I think we kind of expected it to happen sooner or later before the end of the series. So yeah,
we must join with him, Gundam. We must join with Sauron.
Well, that's it, guys. So that's it for this episode of the Council of Elrond. Thank you so much for listening and for watching if you're enjoying this on YouTube. If you're not, please head over to our YouTube channel, the Mellon Heads, and give us a follow there, and a like and a share and all that good stuff. And also check out our Patreon channel, and the links for all of our media are in the episode description, along with the links for these two lovely gentlemen who are on the Broken Sword channel. But most importantly, please get in touch and let us know what you thought about this episode. Drop us a comment. Tell us where this episode stacks up and compare us to the rest in your opinion. Also, let us know if we missed out anything in our first watch or anything important, or if you've got any other interesting theories, maybe what you think might be going on with Halbrand really, and all that kind of stuff. Lastly, a big shout out to our current patrons, and a special thank you to Jack Knightley. And once again, a huge thank you to Jake and James for being fabulous guests. And as I said, we will link all of your media in our episode description too. But guys, before we head off, is there any last thing that you'd like to plug?
No, I'd just like to say thank you to you two for having us on. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Loved it.
Yeah, thanks again so much for coming on, and we hope to chat to you boys again soon.
Definitely. We'll have to have you on ours.
Oh yeah, we look forward to it. All right, guys.
Awesome.
See you next week.
All right, cheers.